And here we are at 56 hours. Can you believe it? That's right. We are moving expeditiously. We are heading to 72 hours. And here we are at the end of the second third of our fast as we move through the space of making ourselves metabolically better, as we improve our health, as we continue to reverse our diabetes, as we improve those markers, those things that are causing us problems when it comes to our chronic diseases. Hey, and that's what we're going to be talking about, how fasting is making a big impact in that. Hey, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, go to the next level. We are creating the life we've always wanted. I'm talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to reverse their diabetes, get off of medication, improve their metabolic health, and live limitless lives. That's right. And we're showing up with our best selves, our best health, and the best plans for our life. Welcome to you, whatever platform you're joining us from, whether that is LinkedIn or Twitch or Facebook, or of course here on YouTube. And for those of you who are joining us because you saw our content somewhere else on some other platform, welcome to you as we move through this space, and just so excited to be here with you. We've got some good things that we're going to be talking about. I've got my monitors off to the side that we're going to take a look at here. I've got my Keto Mojo and my Contour, and then of course right down below me, that is my Dexcom Clarity Report, so we can see what's been going on with my blood sugars over the last little while. And just a push for everyone who's there. If you are joining us for the first time, or if you've been following us for a while and you go to our YouTube channel, you'll notice some changes there on the main YouTube page. And I'm pulling that up for you. You will notice that we've kind of streamlined everything to allow you to be able to find us and walk through what we've been doing a lot easier. So when you go to the website now, when you go to the YouTube channel, you will see a couple of playlists that will show up. And these are with the intention of helping you to figure out where to go, what to do a little bit more simply. And so when you go to our YouTube channel now, you'll notice two playlists, right? Two playlists. One is called Start Here, and it says reverse. Let me do this. All right, so start here, and it says reverse diabetes and reclaim your health with Dr. Dwain Woode. And this is the list of videos that we've curated, that we've put together, that says, okay, if you are interested in jumping in and seeing how to walk through this process, this is the list you want to start with. This is the playlist you want to start with. That helps you to walk through the process that we've been on, or that journey that we've been on. And then if you're joining us for this week, you've been away, or even if you've been with us and you say, okay, let me remember, what are we doing this week? That is this week's videos, right? So this week's videos on Limitless Living with Dr. Dwain Woode. And this is a list of all the videos that we've done, that we are doing this week. And so if you're ever not sure where we are, you want to catch up on what's going on this particular week, that's the list of videos that you want to get to. And then of course, up on the top, the very first thing you will see is the video that's playing right now, or the live that we are in right now. Okay, so once again, this is where we are. That's our live. If you want to jump in and walk through the process, start here. That is what you want to look at. If you are sending anyone to the channel, if you're inviting anybody to come join us, that's where you want them to start, and they just walk through that process, walk through that list. And then if you want to see, catch up to where we are this week, that's this week's videos on Limitless Living. And we've created a PDF that you can actually go and download as part of that playlist. In the description for that playlist, and let me go ahead and let me pull that back up. Here we are. All right, so this is the Start Here video, and this is a description of the playlist. And in the description, it walks through each of the different parts of the sets of videos. So start with vision, right? So part 1, understanding what's really going on. Part 2, mastering the tools that actually work. Part 3, and then putting it all together. Part 4, and then there's a free download that you can do, that you can go and get. And actually, why don't I do this really quickly? I'm going to grab that link, and I'm going to pop it into the chat. Okay, so we'll do that, and so you can get over there and download that. And so it's a free PDF. You go, it'll point you to the website, and you can go ahead and grab that. So let me go ahead and drop that in the comments here really quickly. And this actually helps you walk through the process of getting that PDF, and you follow that along with the start here. Okay, and that's with the intention of getting you in the space where you are all primed and all set to improve your health, and that is a simple process there that you want to make sure that you're getting into. The other thing that's going on the channel, and give me a second, let me pull this up really quickly. Hold on a minute. There we go. And so on the channel, there are a lot of things that are going on, and one of the things that's going on right now is our strength, strategy, and mindset. That is the part of the MOVE campaign. Remember, metabolic optimization via exercise, and we are on day number 79, and this is the space where we are implementing the things that we're learning in terms of our activity. How do we get our bodies ready and get our bodies set to burn calories, to reduce insulin, become more insulin sensitive, so that we decrease the problems that we see with hyperinsulinemia. If you didn't see our show last night, that's a great episode to go back and watch, because we talked about the insulin burden. We'll talk a little bit more about that here tonight as we go through this space. But this is a perfect opportunity for you to get in there and to work with us. We're doing some dumbbell presses. Let me see. Let me get there. So I'm doing some talking right there. We're doing some dumbbell presses, some knee extensions. We're doing some squats, right? We're doing some dead bugs. So all of this is with the idea that you can improve your health. And this series is a part of our MOVE campaign. Remember, metabolic optimization via exercise. When we talk about the Limitless Living Health Action Plan, remember there are several components to the Health Action Plan. Well, it's walking, fasting, strength training, balance bites, rest and recovery, mental mastery, and of course structure and planning. And you'll see those two there, walking and strength training, are two of the components of that MOVE campaign that we've been on. Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at blood sugars, because that is an important thing that we want to do. And we're going to hop over and take a look at what's been going on with my blood sugars over the last little while. Let's first look at my Freestyle Libre. And right here, you'll see what my blood sugar is right now. It's 61. And if you scroll down here, here's the graph. And that graph shows several things. Number one, you'll see that there is a red kind of squiggly line that's there. That's what my blood sugar has been running. And you'll see that most of the day it's actually been below 70, and 70 is the dashed line that's right above it. In the earlier part of the day, we were right at 70 or a little bit above 70, and then for most of today, we've actually been below 70. If I go over, well, let me do it this way and show you some of the other things that this shows. And here's my report tab. And when we look at the time in range for the last 7 days, you'll see that I've been in range 89% of the time. And the reason I've been in range 89% of the time is that for 11% of the time, I've been below 70. And so if you add 89 and 11, right, 89 and 11, then you'll get 100. So we've been in the normal range, or actually low, for 100% of the time. And the low that you're seeing there is because I've been fasting. Okay? If I do for 90 days, a similar graph, you see 91% with 9% in the low over the last 90 days. If I get out of that and go to average blood sugar, which is another interesting one to look at, you'll see that over 7 days, look at the average blood sugar there, that's in the 80s or 90s, 14 days, 80s or 90s, 30 days, 80s and 90s, and 90 days, 80s and 90s over the course of this of the last several weeks. And then now let's go ahead and look at my Dexcom Clarity. And you'll see similar, the number right here is 71 is what my blood sugar is. Scrolling down, you'll see right here, that is what my blood sugars have been running. And let's look over the last 24 hours. One of the things I like about this, and they're actually changing this in the Libre also, I'm told, is that I can actually put my finger on the graph and I can scroll across and I can see what the blood sugars have been at any particular time. So now this is over 24 hours. So about 24 hours ago, we were 89. And if I continue scrolling, see we've been in the 80s and 90s, 80s and 90s, and coming down into the morning, 80s and 90s. And you'll see right there that my blood sugar, and I want you to take a look at something, right? So right there, normally I have that toothpaste effect. Well, we're doing something a little differently that we'll share with you another time that we're doing there with toothpaste. And notice that I didn't get the big spike that I normally get, right? So it's almost as though nothing happened to the blood sugar there. So I love that. And if you continue watching, you'll see 80s and 90s down into the 70s to where we are right now. Okay. All right. So, and then let's take a look at this. These guys. So here's my Keto Mojo, and here is my Contour. So what do you think? What do you think at 56 hours now is where we are? What do you think my ketones are going to be? All right. So we're going to check that. Let's go ahead and go to this view and pull out our container. And so I need a brown for ketones. Sorry, brown for blood sugar. And if I find a blue one, there we go. A blue one for ketones. Here's my strip for the Contour. And then I need a lancet. And let's go ahead and put this one back. Okay. And let's take a look now. Let's get a strip out of here. This is for the Contour. So what do you think my ketones are going to be? Go ahead and pop that into the chat if you have a guess at 56 hours of fasting. 56 hours of fasting. All right. So let's go ahead. I'm going to open this up. And I'm going to open both of these because they tend to give me, at least the ketone one tends to give me some trouble. Get that in and open this one up just so I can have it off to the side. Okay, and that opened okay, I guess, but yeah, there we go. And then here is my lancet. Go ahead and open that up. And as you know, if you've been following us, you know I don't use the lancing device. I just grab the lancet, and there it is. And I grab a finger, and let's go ahead and ow, 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 ow. That better give me a good number. Oh, good blood flow. All right, there we go. Yeah, that was a pretty brisk one, actually. Get that going, and then get that going, and then I need another drop. And so while that's coming up, let's go ahead and put this back. So 57 is what the Keto Mojo says. 60 is what the Contour says, and you'll see right there, 71 is what the Dexcom says. So let me take this out and replace it with a ketone strip. Okay, and then let's get that drop of blood on before it dries. And I see some people are starting to put some guesses in there to see what it is. So I am guessing. Well, I'm guessing that it's going to be higher at 1.3. Look at that, 1.3. Let's see. And I do see. I see a 1.2. I see something. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Very good. And then let's go ahead and pop over. I want to pull this into the Keto Mojo app. So let's do that. Let's see if we can pull that in here. So we could talk a little bit about ketones and graphs and so forth. All right. Actually, I need to turn that on and then sync. And let's see if that works. So so I do see some guesses in there. I see a 1.2. I see a 1.1. I see a 0.7. And so here we are. So this is my, and we're looking, actually, where am I? Yeah, over here. Actually, let's do this one. Let's do this view. Okay. So right here, we're looking at that big number. That's 2.4. That's my glucoketo index. Down below, you'll see the glucose is in red, and that's in red because it's low. Right below 70 is considered low, and then the ketones 1.3. So the glucoketo index, the big number, is a ratio of the glucose to the ketones. And you're looking at that and you say, well, that, if I divide 57 by 1.3, that doesn't give me 2.4, but it's actually a calculation. So let me go ahead and pull up my calculator, and I got to remember those numbers. 57 and 1.3. Okay, 57 and 1.3. Here's my calculator. And so 57, I've got to convert that to international units, so I divide that by 18. And that gives me that 3.1, and then if I divide that by 1.3, now I get that 2.4, which is what this guy is showing us. Okay, so 2.4. So when we're in the fasting space, we want the glucoketo index, this guy, to be as low as possible. We want blood sugars to be as low as possible, and we want ketones to be as high as possible. So when we talk about ketones, remember that ketones that are less than 0.5 are considered normal, 0.5 to 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis, and then above 1.5 is considered therapeutic ketosis. So whenever we're fasting, whenever we're in a ketogenic diet, whenever we are doing a fasting mimicking diet, any of those things, we want the ketones to be 0.5 or higher. So for some of you, I've had people ask me, well, oh, my ketones are 0.7 and I want them to be higher. Remember, as long as you are in above, as long as you're 0.5 or higher, then your body is burning fat. Now, let's talk through this process a little bit. And actually, let's do this. Let's see if I can get here. Hold on a minute. Let me go over because I want to take a look at the graphs. So let's say hide that. Okay, there we go. And let's take a look at the graph. And so here we are. Actually, let's go back a little bit. There we go. And then move forward. All right. So you'll notice that when my blood sugars are higher, and this line right here is blood sugar, it was 102, and my ketones at that time was 0.3. But as the blood sugar went down, went from 102 down to what it is now, which is 77. Actually, that's not the right one. So let's see, where are we? Okay, come on. But this is a good example anyway. So as the blood sugars have gone down, right, and that's what we had the other night, by the way. As the blood sugars have gone down from 102 down to 77, for example, the ketones actually went up from 0.3 up to 0.9. And the reason for that, the reason for ketones going up when blood sugar drops, is when the blood sugar is higher, the body is producing insulin. Or you're having to take insulin if you have medication. If you're taking insulin itself, you have to take a medication to bring that blood sugar down. And remember, ketones negate or inhibit the process of the body going to break fat down, right? Because remember, insulin is a storage hormone, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. So we want those blood sugars to be in the, we want the ketones to be in the 0.5 or higher range. In order for us to be continually there, then our insulin level has to be lower. And the insulin level goes lower when the blood sugar, of course, goes lower. Yeah, okay? So let's go ahead now and let's take a look at what's going on with my Dexcom Clarity report. And so my average blood sugar over the last 14 days, 109. I'm in target 99% of the time. And so what you're seeing now is the blood sugar, the actual blowout of what we saw on the monitor, right? We were looking at the phone, and here's the actual report. And this is the report that I look at when I'm seeing patients in the office. So what is their average blood sugar? How much time are they in range? And 99, the range being 70 to 180. and the glucose management indicator is 5.9. So if I were to get an A1C based on the blood sugars I have right now, I would expect it to be a 5.9. If I change to the 90-day view, right, and let's pull that up. So you see, over 90 days, my average has been 117 with a glucose management indicator of 6.1, and I'm in target 99% of the time, with that target still being 70 to 180. And now let's go over and let's take a look at the daily graphs, and this now gives me what's been going on with my blood sugar minute by minute. And as you know, the Dexcom checks blood sugars every 5 minutes, and the Libre does it every 1 minute, right? So every minute you're getting a number. And so let's take a look at this. So over the course of the, let me get rid of this thing. Over the course of the day, you see right now we're in the 70s. We popped up there into the 80s, and we're kind of straddling that 70 line. See that? So it's right above that. And then earlier in the day, we were in the 80s and 90s. 80s and 90s for most of today. And if I go back to yesterday, let's see, where are we? Go back to yesterday. All right, there we go. Go back to yesterday. See, we are in the 80s and 90s, and right here, yesterday, we would have been at 24 hours, right? So right in here, so 70, so 80s and 90s, and then going further into the day, notice that we were 100s earlier in the day, low 100s, moving into the next day or the previous day, and so here we are in the first day of fasting, and right about here is where we started the fast. So we ate our last meal, and let's start from here going forward now. So we've gone backwards. Let's start from here. Last meal was eaten right about here, and let's take a look at those blood sugars. And so we're tracing those blood sugars going forward now. And if you didn't see the episode where we ate the meal, you want to go back and watch that so you see exactly what I ate as my last meal coming into the fast. And so right here is where my blood sugars were at the time. And then let's see what happens to my blood sugar as I move forward. And you see we got a 118 there. So it started out at 109, 118, 114, 115, 119. Did I see that? Yeah, 119. And then it started dropping into the low 1 teens and then into the 90s, into the rest of the evening. And then going into the next morning, into the 90s, and straddling, 100, 108, 105, 106. And right in here is where I usually have that big spike from toothpaste. And it did go up, but not as big as it usually does. So I got a 118, I think, there. And then we continue through that process, what we just saw, into the 80s and 90s. And then, of course, coming into today, notice that we started out in the 80s and 90s, and then we came close to 70s, and so we've been straddling that 70 line for the last, I don't know, last 9 to 10 hours? Okay, and that is what we're looking for when we're talking about the meal that we're eating coming into the fast. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for those numbers, not to give us big spikes. We're looking for those numbers to kind of remain relatively stable as we're moving through the fasting space. And that gives us the best possibility that if that's the case, right, and those numbers continue to go down, when the body is finished using, and that's why I get excited, when the body has used up all the sugar, so the blood sugar drops, like you're saying here, blood sugars in the 70s and 80s, and actually in my case, where it's down into the 60s according to my monitor. When that blood sugar spikes back up, like if this blood sugar goes up above 70 or even to the 80s or 90s, the question that we have to ask is, where did that sugar come from? And that sugar has to have come from my body converting fat into sugar, particularly if I have ketones, right? So my ketones are high. That means my body's burning fat. So that's an indication there. And then my blood sugar is low. So the only other place that it could get sugar from is converting some of those fat cells into glucose. All right, so let's go ahead and let's take let's say hello to our community members. I see some of you out there, so let's say hi really quickly. And so we see Kenty Fried. She said, "Wow, good for you. I am from New Zealand." Oh, let me go back up. I missed a couple. Oh, there we go. So Smile. Gion says, "Hi, Doctor. Hi, LLG." Gion says, "Hi, Kenty." And Kenty says, "Hello, I'm not alone, LOL." Gian says, "Yes, we are together." Gian said, "I'm from South Korea, a woman who has one daughter." Okay, awesome. Kenty says, "Wow, for you, I am from New Zealand, East Aussie." Whoa, whoa, whoa. We were born in the mid-90s. Bowie says, "Hi, everyone." And, of course, we got that link there for you to go and download the PDF that gives you the playlist. I keep saying the playlist. And then Cornelia says, "Hello, everybody." Steve says, "Hello." Let's see. And Steve says, "Hello, my friend." Cornelia says 1.2. So Cornelia, you were pretty close. 1.3 is what we had. Steve said 1.1. Kenty said it was 0.75. Gion says, "Hi, Cornelia." And then Steve saying, "My GKI is 4, a little higher than I like." Yeah. So we want that keto GKI to be lower. So as low as possible, ketones as high as possible, and blood sugars, I don't want to say as low as possible. Blood sugar is low, right? Because that means that our body is using carbs or using fat to create sugar and to keep our body running. Okay? All right. So let's go ahead and let's hop into our discussion for tonight as we continue working on getting our body healthy. So let's go ahead and let's do that right now. All right. So if you were with us as we continued this process, if you've been with us, or even if you're new to us, you understand that metabolism is the process where the body converts energy or gets energy from food. And one of the phrases that I love that I actually didn't used to like this, but I'm now embracing it because it really does set the tone for a lot of what we talk about in this space and how the body works. And that is this idea of food as medicine. Yeah, food as medicine. And when we talk about metabolism, that really is where that comes from. It is the fact that dysfunctional metabolism has to do with that conversion of food to energy. And anywhere along that pathway, when there is an issue, then we have derailment, if you will, and we have misalignment of the different things that the body does, and that sets us up for downstream issues. The culprit, the main culprit in that entire process is one of the hormones that we talk about, we hear about, and we've kind of almost demonized it, and that is insulin. Insulin is a hormone in the body that has a functional role. It has a good role, and that is to help us regulate blood sugar. But when insulin goes awry, when it becomes hyper, when it becomes too much, when our body has to produce too much to keep our blood sugars down, then the insulin becomes an issue. And it's your body's store or burn switch is the thing that says, hey, it's kind of like a guard that's standing at the door. And when food comes in, it says, okay, you go that way to store, or you go that way to burn, right? So it is the store or burn switch. The primary role, though, of insulin is to help us manage glucose, help us manage blood sugar, and help it keep normal blood sugar in the bloodstream. And so it is not that insulin is a bad hormone. It is that when insulin becomes elevated, then we see the problem. And so the primary role of insulin is with the glucose, but secondary effects of insulin, right? It inhibits lipolysis, that is the fat breakdown, because it's sending sending food into storage. It stimulates fat storage, right? Which is what we said. It decreases autophagy. Now let's pause here for a minute. Autophagy is the process where the body is recycling, it's reclaiming, it's cleaning itself. Autophagy becomes very important when we talk about things like inflammation, when we talk about things like immunity, when we talk about things like cancer cells, because autophagy is the body's functional arm that signals, hey, let's go and let's find damaged, broken, misshapen, unused, rogue cells that are out in the body. Let's go grab those and let's gobble them up. Like you guys remember back in the 80s, they had the Pac-Man game, Mr. and Mrs. Pac-Man, and they would go around and they would gobble up the little, I don't know what they were called, but that's what's going on. Autophagy is the signal that says, hey, let's go out and let's clean the system. So insulin inhibits or suppresses autophagy. So if insulin is suppressing autophagy, then the process of going out and finding those broken, damaged cells slows down. And so when that happens, then we have proliferation of cells that would normally be gobbled up. And remember, proliferation just means growing. And so cells that would normally be gobbled up and recycled, they stay there longer. And that predisposes us to cancer, right? That's one of the things. The other thing that happens is when we have, and let's come off of insulin for a minute. Let's talk about one of the downstream side effects. That's elevated blood sugar. Elevated blood sugar causes our body's scavenging cells, the macrophages. These are the cells that go out and they're the ones that clean up. They're the ones that help with healing. They're the ones that help with gobbling up and eating up infections or bacteria and viruses that come into the body. It makes those cells work slower. One of the games we used to play was freeze tag. You guys remember that freeze tag? And so you would run and somebody would grab you and you have to freeze. And then somebody else would have to come and hit you to unfreeze you. Well, if you had somebody that was running really slow, right? If they were the person that was trying to tag you, they couldn't catch you, right? Because you're much faster. And that's the same thing that's going on in the body. When the blood sugars are high, it slows down the cells that are tasked with cleaning the body up. That's one of the reasons why you get a cut and you get a scrape. And instead of healing in 7 to 10 days, like it normally would, now it takes 3-4 weeks to heal. Because the cells that are designed to come and help heal that, they're much more sluggish. Like that person who's trying to catch you in freeze tag, if you're fast, they're not going to get you, right? So the body has this thing that's going on, and high blood sugars causes that to be much slower. And of course, insulin suppresses autophagy, which is the signal to go out and to clean the system up. So now we have cells that shouldn't be there, that would normally be taken up, now they're there and they're growing, so predisposing us to cancer. We have elevated insulin, autophagy is going down, and so the body normally is decreasing our inflammation, right? So autophagy is going out and grabbing that. So now that's not happening as quickly. Also, this is when we talk about autophagy, this is where we talk about those neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. Remember, type 3 diabetes is the phrase everybody's using. Well, if that process is inhibited, then those neurofibrillary tangles, which we've discovered that cause problems in Alzheimer's disease, then those things don't get eaten up as much, and so they last longer. We have the increased insulin, increased sugar on those synapses and those brain cells, and now we predispose people to Alzheimer's disease, to dementia, right? So all that's happening with this hyperinsulinemia. Insulin also promotes sodium retention. So the higher your insulin, right, the more salt you retain, and what follows salt? Water follows salt. So now we get increased swelling. right? So some people will say, wait a minute, I was fine until I started insulin or until I put on, or I got started on medication to improve that or improve my blood sugar. Or, man, I'm not on any medication, I'm not taking an insulin, but it looks like I'm starting to swell more. Why? Because the insulin in your body has gone up. Also, insulin, too much insulin decreases ketones. Right? It reduces ketone production. So these are some effects of insulin. And insulin alters hormones, right? It lowers testosterone. It impacts estrogen metabolism. All of this is going on. So insulin is not just hey, this is my sugar hormone. It is a hormone that does lots of other things in the body. And when it becomes dysregulated, now it causes other problems, right? So insulin is the loudest voice. Let me say this. Of all the hormones that possibly impact your metabolism, and there are several, by the way, so cortisol, epinephrine, ghrelin, leptin, all of those are hormones that work in the metabolic pathway. But the loudest hormone, by far, is insulin. It is a metabolic, it's kind of like being in the choir, and everybody's supposed to be singing, but there's that one person whose voice is like louder than it. That's insulin right there. And when it's high, everything else sounds like a whisper. Like, okay, and it's funny when I sang, and we sang in choir at school, and all through elementary school and high school. When we sang, right, the teacher would come by and he's like, okay, you just sing, but I want you to lower your volume just a little bit, right? Now let the other tenors, let the other baritones, let the other basses, let their voice come up and match you. So when you're singing, hey, you got to listen to everybody else. Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation, right? So when insulin's high, everything else whispers. So how much insulin does your body actually make? And I commented about this recently. You don't just need insulin to survive. You need more of it when your system becomes dysregulated. And the average person makes between 25 to 30 units of insulin per day, up to maybe 50, but 25 to 30 is on average. But when you become insulin resistant, then if I were to measure your insulin in your body, your insulin level is much, much higher than that. And one of the points that I've started making recently when I talk to people about insulin and blood sugar is this concept of prediabetes. Okay, let's walk through this a minute. So prediabetes is defined as blood sugars that are higher than normal, but not high enough to be considered diabetic. So let's talk about that group, because there are three groups actually. There are people that are normal, that are not pre-diabetic, people that are pre-diabetic, and then people that we now consider diabetics, okay? So diabetes, we've already kind of talked about that. We'll come back to that in just a sec. But let's talk about the pre-diabetic group. So you go to your doctor and the doctor says, hey, you're pre-diabetic. And in many people's minds, when they hear the phrase pre-diabetic, they actually breathe a sigh of relief. I'm not normal, but they say I'm not diabetic, so I'm good. And what we don't explain is that the same things that are going on in the diabetic are starting to go on in the pre-diabetic. So the reason that your blood sugars are higher than normal, right? We said there's a normal group. The reason your blood sugar is higher than normal is that your body is beginning to have problems controlling the sugar. That means that the insulin that your body's making is inadequate for what sugar is in there. And by virtue of that, that means that my body had to have tried as much as it could to produce enough insulin to keep my blood sugar normal, and it couldn't produce enough, and so now my blood sugars are starting to climb. So if I were to check the insulin level for someone who's diabetic or pre-diabetic, I would find that they make a lot more insulin. And if we believe the studies, 2 to 5 times more insulin is being produced. Now, let's shift down now to what we consider normal. So how does the body keep an A1C and blood sugar normal in light of the foods that we eat. Because I want you to think, if you're not diabetic and you're watching right now, I want you to think about the foods that you eat. I want you to go through the process. Now, not everybody is out eating, bowls of pasta and rice and cookies and candy and cake and ice cream. But in general, I want you to think about a typical diet. Not a diabetic diet, not somebody who's quote unquote trying to be nutritious, but someone who's eating what we consider a regular normal diet. We haven't looked at them and say, hey, you need to cut back on this, or you need to this is just a normal diet. If the blood sugars are normal and the A1C is normal on the regular diet that we eat, in order for the body to have kept that normal, it still had to have produced more insulin. Because the regular diet that we eat is full of carbs, they're full of added sugar. For instance, if you go drink one of these, a regular can of soda drink, it's probably between 4 to 7 teaspoons of sugar in that drink. And so what does the body have to do with 7 teaspoons of sugar? Or what does the body have to do to keep your blood sugar normal after you drank 7 teaspoons of sugar? It has to produce insulin. And that hyperinsulinemia, once again, we keep talking about the sugar, that the sugar is the problem. It's not the sugar that's the problem. The sugar is the result of the problem. So in people who have type 2 diabetes, polycystic ovarian syndrome, people who have obesity, people who have metabolic syndrome, if we were to check their insulin, it's 2 to 3 times, or maybe 4 times or 5 times higher than what was produced in a normal, non-diabetic, non-pre-diabetic person. So when I see someone who has blood sugars that are normal, but they are putting on weight, their A1C is in the normal range, and they're putting on weight, and I talk to them about what they're eating, they think it's the calories that themselves that are causing the weight gain. It's really not the calories, because you can burn calories up. But it's the additional signal that comes from the insulin that's saying anything that I eat, and I want you to hear this, I'm not talking about eating cookies, candies, cake, pasta, rice, potatoes, bread. I'm talking anything that you eat. Broccoli will cause you to put on weight. Salad will cause you to put on weight. Celery will cause you to put on weight. Why? Because the insulin is elevated, and the insulin is a signal to store. That's why it matters. So the body is yelling to be heard, and the cells aren't listening. And the consequence is that you're in a high insulin state, even when the blood sugars look normal. Oh, yeah, that's it right there. If you don't remember anything else that I say from this episode, I want you to get that point. That even though your blood sugars are normal, even though your A1C is normal, if you're putting on weight, you have high blood pressure, you have high cholesterol, they tell you you're at risk for coronary artery disease, you have polycystic ovarian syndrome, all of those things, and more, by the way, this is not an exhaustive list. The consequence is that even though it looks normal, you're in a high insulin state. And this is why so many people can't lose weight even when they are doing the things that we tell them and they have what we consider perfect blood sugars. Insulin is the issue. And so when we talk about the triple E formula, not the triple E, but we talk about reversing diabetes, we've talked about those 3 pillars: decreasing insulin, suppressing the appetite, and reducing sugar. Notice in that list, which one comes first? Decreasing insulin. The other 2 are supporting the decreasing insulin, because if you're not eating, you're suppressing sugar, right? Reducing sugar. If you reduce sugar, you don't have to have that much insulin. If I suppress the appetite, then I don't eat. And if I don't eat, or I don't eat those things, then my insulin goes down as well. So what's going on at 56 hours, right? What's going on at 56 hours with insulin? Well, insulin secretion is minimal. And so when you look at blood sugars, that are in the 65, like for instance, my blood sugar right now is 65, that's below normal. So if I were to check my insulin level right now, along with the blood sugar, I would find that my insulin level is minimal. It's decreasing because the body doesn't have to produce insulin because my blood sugar is already low. So insulin secretion goes down. The pancreas, the beta cells that are there, they are resting and recovery becomes possible for them, right? So they're not having to it's kind of like having that engine that's like going at 120% all the time. At some point, that engine is going to say, I can't do any more. But at 56 hours, insulin level goes down. My body's not having to produce insulin, and so those beta cells get a rest. The insulin receptors on cells become better sensitized. I want you to think about, and this is a good one. So when my son was young, we went to these monster truck things. They have them at the Civic Center down here, and so they'd come and it would be loud. And I remember he was young, and so when we went, they would give us those earmuffs. Right? So they put them on, and now he's hanging out. Well, if you didn't do that, and people who are in chronic environments where there's loud noise, well, that loud noise begins to damage the eardrum. And after a while, if you take that same person that's been around the loud noise and you put them in a normal environment, they can't hear that well. So what we have to do is we have to increase the volume of whatever they're trying to listen to so that we can reach the threshold where they can hear it. So your cells are in the same situation. They're going around minding their own business, but there's so much insulin that's coming at them. It's like the noise that's coming at them, and the cells now become less able to hear the insulin, and so they don't respond as well. And so the insulin receptors don't work as well. And so that's one of the reasons, one of the things that we teach, that this idea of insulin resistance, and there's a whole conversation that we'll have to come back and have to talk about what the various theories are on how this all works. Because we're still learning. We're still learning all these things. Right? So 56 hours. Fat tissue, fat cells, tissues begin to release the stored fat due to low insulin. So this is one of the things that I love, right? And you guys, if you've been watching, if you've been following, all right, so here's this graph, and I love showing this graph because this graph is an indication of the benefit that we see as we walk through the process of fasting. And so here is 260 pounds, right? 260 pounds. This is my graph, by the way. All right, 260 pounds. And as I move through the fasting space, I want you to watch. And so here we are, 186. Now this graph doesn't have my highest weight, which was 287. And so we're right now a little bit lower than 100, a little over 100 pounds of weight loss. The benefit of fasting, I want you to hear this. The side effect of fasting, the ancillary part of fasting is that metabolism improves in all areas of our body. So here's an example of the fat stores being gobbled up and seeing that change in blood sugars, seeing the change in weight. That's a side effect of improving your metabolism. And I want you to get that. Now, there are lots of things that we say that we want. So some of you are watching, you want to lose weight. Some of you are watching, you want to improve your blood sugar. Some of you are watching, you want to improve your cholesterol. Who are watching, you want to improve your blood pressure. You want to improve your polycystic ovarian syndrome. Your doctors told you that you have fatty liver. Somebody's told you have a high risk for heart disease. Somebody said that, hey, if you fast, that improves your memory, or if you fast, it improves your neuropathy. So all of those are reasons why we fast. But I want you to understand that when you fast, along all of those pathways, things get better. So it's not just one thing. So when I say I am fasting because I want to improve my blood sugar, that is great. And that does happen. But the other things that happen are the other things that we just talked about. So adipose tissue or fat cells begin to get broken down due to the low insulin, because as long as insulin is high, those fat cells are not going anywhere. Growth hormone and adiponectin levels increase. Both of these enhance your insulin suppression, because growth hormone helps to build muscles, and metabolically active muscles release what are called GLUT4 transporters. It's like those muscles open up channels and they suck sugar in, so my blood sugar goes down without the use of insulin. So my body doesn't have to produce insulin. That's one of the most fundamental things that we have to understand and begin teaching, that when we exercise, we're not just talking about exercising because now we want you to exercise for your heart and all the other things, right? But when I talk to people about exercising, I'm talking to them about doing something that immediately begins lowering your insulin levels. Because when you exercise, your body has to get energy, and the energy that it gets is coming from the bloodstream. And when you're exercising, when you're doing strength training, when you're walking, those muscles are sucking up sugar without having to use insulin. And if I'm not having to use insulin, then my body doesn't have to produce that much insulin. And that insulin I'm making can go to be burning something else, because I don't have to use it over here. It's kind of like at your house, right? Say you have, your budget, your monthly budget is $1,000. I'm picking 1,000, just a random number. So your monthly budget is $1,000. Well, let me say that's how much you have. Not your budget's more than that. You have $1,000 and your budget is $1,500, and you're like, oh my goodness, I need to get more money to cover the things I have. But all of a sudden, somebody comes and says, hey, here is $500 that I'm going to give you for free. That's the muscles sucking up sugar. Then all of a sudden, the $1,000 that you have is enough. You get that? You get the analogy? So what the GLUT4 transporters do in the muscles is that they make the amount of insulin that we use, that we have in our body, adequate for where my blood sugars are. And that's the beauty of exercising. And that's the beauty of fasting. So at 56 hours, you are more insulin sensitive than you've been in months when you do 56 hours of fasting. All of a sudden, our body is able to do for us what we needed to do. When we think about some people, they say, man, my blood sugar, like people come to the office and I say, well, how long has your blood sugar been 200s? They say, man, this has been, I don't think I've ever had it down in the 100s. And I'm talking years. If you look at all the studies, they say that when someone is finally diagnosed with diabetes, their blood sugars have been, or your body has been struggling to control those blood sugars for up to 10 years sometimes. When we fast, what we're doing is we're reversing all of that. So in the brain, you don't just feel better at this stage at 56 hours because of ketones. You feel better because your brain is no longer swimming in insulin. High insulin is associated with brain fog, with depression, with cognitive fatigue, with Alzheimer's disease, sometimes called type 3 diabetes. You heard me say that. Fasting decreases insulin. It increases BDNF, which is brain-derived natriuretic factor, which is like miracle grow for the brain. It improves mitochondrial efficiency. Those are the batteries in your body. It reduces the reactive oxygen species. These are in your body. When your body has to, forms what's called free radicals, right? So the free radicals are in the body. They come from oxygen, and they're being, it's kind of like, little dynamite explosions that are going on in the body. And when because they do a good job of doing what they're supposed to do, but what they do is they also damage other things. And when the body becomes more efficient, it suppresses the amount of those damaging things that are going on. They're called reactive oxygen species. Yeah. This is all going on. 56 hours? Oh yeah. I love 56 hours. Fasting? Oh yeah, I love fasting because this stuff that we're talking about, oh yeah, this is what's going on. This is where the body is. This is what it's doing. And it is designed. And here's a good thing. Your body is so resilient that if we give it what it needs, if we provide it the space that it needs, the body is heading. It always wants to get back to what we call homeostasis. And homeostasis is a word that means same. The body is trying to move back to same, meaning it's trying to move back to normal. It doesn't like to be out normal. It doesn't like to have the insulin levels high. It doesn't like to have blood sugars that are high. It doesn't like to have autophagy suppressed. It doesn't like to have our hormones dysregulated. It wants to go back, and it is in the process of trying to do that if we give it the space that it needs. And 56 hours is a perfect place to say, hey, body, come on, me and you. It's me and you all the way. I'm going to give you the space that you need to be successful. And that's the benefit of fasting at 56 hours. Hang on, we'll talk more about that. So we are moving into our 72-hour fast for this week, and I just wanted to do a quick shout out to one of our community members that's out there who posted in our group some amazing results that she had as she visited her healthcare provider today. So Cornelia, congratulations on all the things that you posted in the community area. So it's incredible to see what's going on. Incredible to hear the stories of successes that people are having with weight loss, improved blood sugars, improved A1C, improved blood pressure. And what I love about this, and I've shared this story with you, when I go to my healthcare provider, one of the things we talk about is what we're talking about right here. Okay? Because one of the questions that I get asked often is, wow, you're doing this? Or how, the question is usually, what are you doing? And when I talk to people, not my healthcare provider, when I talk to people, I tell them, I said, I finally found something that works for me. I've struggled with my weight, with my blood sugars for years, and you guys have seen those numbers, but I finally found something that works for me. And I let them inquire more. I don't just jump in and say, oh, this is what I'm doing, right? I used to do that because I was so gung-ho. I was like, yeah, let's do this. And everybody's not ready yet. Yeah, everybody's not ready yet to hear and to be in that space. Now, everybody says they want to be better. Everybody has the goal to be better. But just like a friend of mine reminded me when I commented to him about the fact that, man, all this stuff, why didn't I get this before? And he said, you weren't ready yet. And that's not a put down in terms of not being ready. That is, it has to, and that's why the triple E formula for success is so important. The first E, we educate. There has to be a mindset change. There has to be an understanding of how the body works. Because I can tell you to do anything, but if you don't understand it, the likelihood that you maintain it is lower. Kind of like as my son grows, I can tell him to do something. Oh, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. But at some point, right? At some point as he matures and matured, I had to stop just saying don't. And I had to start explaining why. Because I wanted him to understand the process. And that's what the education is. That's why we do what we do. That's why we're here. Because the education is so important. There has to be an understanding of what's going on, how the body works, and what the things are that we need to do. So understanding. So when I'm talking to people, I share. Okay, I'm having some successes. This is what's. I finally found something that's good for me. And if they inquire, then tell them, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing. I send them to the channel. Sometimes I'm tempted to stand there and just walk through. You guys know me, right? I'm tempted to stand there and just walk through the whole Limitless Living Health Action Plan. I said, well, no. I said, go to the channel and watch. And if you have questions, you can come ask me. And that's one of the reasons why we've changed the look of the YouTube channel and make it much more streamlined so that when you go there, there's not a doubt about where to go. It says start here. That's where you start and go through that process. Okay. All right. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. Let's see. Let's go back over here. I see some of our community members and let's see. Where was I? We talked about, let's go back up, and I think the last one I saw was Steve's. Yeah. So Jennifer, hey, Jennifer, howdy. Jennifer said howdy, everybody. She said, hit that like button. Thank you for saying that, Jennifer. Appreciate that. Hi, Jennifer from Gion. Jennifer say, hey, Gion. Gion is smiling. Hey, Pam, what's going on? Thank you for coming through. Gion saying hi, Pam. Jennifer, hi to Pam. And Pam is saying hi to everybody. Jennifer is awesome, and congratulations, Cornelia. Cornelia had some amazing results. Thank you for posting that in the group. Gion says amazing. Pamela says congratulations, Cornelia. Kudos to you again, Cornelia. Hello, ladies. Thank you all. And Gion, smiley face and thumbs up for everybody. Yes. And so education, empowerment, encouragement, that's the Triple E formula for success. That's how we do, that's how I talk, that's how I teach. When I'm thinking about, okay, how are we going to get this concept to be manifested? That's how I do it. I educate, I empower, and encourage. Education comes from the blogs, the shows that we do, the podcast. The encouragement or the empowerment comes with the tools that we're learning, right? We'll talk about that in a minute. And then the encouragement comes from the community. Because the tools, if I can give you information all I want, but if I don't provide you with a way of doing it or how to implement that, then the information is great. Thank you for it. But okay, what do I do with it now? And that's where the tools come in, right? The Limitless Living Health Action Plan, the HEAT model, the COPE model. All of those things are tools that you get to use now to implement the things that we learn in the education. And the encouragement comes from the community. When you see and when you hear people that you know are having successes, when they share that here in the space, oh yeah, that motivates you. It stimulates you. It says, hey, if they can do it, then I can do that as well. That's why I show my numbers. Because I want you to know I'm not just some super guy who has it all together. This is something that you see, that you walk through with me. And for example, today, I was talking a lot about Cadbury chocolates. Yeah, you know, Cadbury chocolate and Ben & Jerry's ice cream. That's my thing right there, right? And so, you know, when I go to Walmart, when I go to Publix, when I go to Kroger, I gotta don't walk down that aisle, because if I walk down that aisle, it's gonna be an issue, right? So we're walking through this process together. We're encouraging one another, and so the question then becomes, as you learn all of this, how do we implement that? How do we install that in our lives? And one of the process that we're walking through is not designed to be a one-off. This isn't like, hey, I'm doing this today and I'm doing this tomorrow. I'm going to do this for a couple of weeks. What we want is limitless living, which says that I am doing everything that I can, right? I'm doing everything that I can right over here to be successful. It is my living process now. It is the way I am now. It is who I am now. It is no longer just a 30-day, 90-day, 120-day thing. It is me for sure. I have installed a new operating system in my body, and that is where we are heading. And the accelerator program that that you will see popping up here in our space on the website, you heard me talking about that. I started talking about it last week, talked about this week, is coming. So pay attention to this channel, pay attention to the show, and it's designed to take all the things that we've done. It's a container that says, okay, this is now our way of implementing all this stuff that we've been talking about. The start here is a walkthrough of the process. How do we get that now to be permanent in me? And that's what the accelerator is designed to do. So pay attention to that. That's coming. You'll see that that link coming up, so you can get in there and get some more information about it. But I am always excited. I'm always excited when I'm in this space with you. You are an amazing community. Let me say that. You are, and one of the things I love, and if you've not seen our check-ins over during the day, is I love just showing up and seeing the community and seeing what you're doing and hear your stories. Now, you think that your story is not a good story because, I was supposed to be fasting this week and, I only made it to 12 hours and then I ate something, or, man, look at me, I didn't do my exercise this morning. Do you know what that is? That's life. That's real life. And so our goal is not to negate real life. Our goal is not to say, oh, I'm such a bad person because life is going on. Our goal is, how do we put a structure in place that helps us to survive and to be successful as we are living life? This idea of a perfect life where nothing ever happens, where everything always goes the way I designed it, where I always achieve the goals, where I never have anything that causes me problems, that doesn't exist here. In fact, I was talking to somebody, was it today or yesterday? And we were having this same conversation, because the comment was to me, that the person made to me was like, man, I wish I was stronger, or I'm such a bad person, or I'm doing this stuff I'm not supposed to do, and I understand why we say that, because we've been conditioned, we've been trained to be in that space in our head. And I don't want to negate anything that we have been, and I don't want to negate anything that has benefited us, right? Because some of those thoughts actually helped us push through. But it's time now to go to the next level. That's why I say that phrase. We're going to the next level. There's the things that we're adequate just like we are. We are sufficient just like we are. But how do we get to the next level? How do we get there? And how do we make that consistent? How do we make that the new person that we are? As if ourselves from the future came back, what would we say to ourselves? That's the person we want to install. We have new theories, new thoughts. We now believe that we are capable, that we have the potential to chart our health course. Whereas before, we didn't think we could do it. Nothing I did worked. I can't lose weight. I can't get good blood sugars. I can't lower my blood pressure. Yes, you can. And it takes us making that change and installing in our body. Now, limitless living says that I'm not allowing anything from outside of me or anything from inside me to prevent me from doing what I need to do. I'm showing up with my best self, my best health, and my best plans. That right there, that's who you are. That's what you got. You don't have to get better to show up. Come on. You come with what you got. We come with the brokenness. We come with the history that we have. We come with the damage that's happened in our body because of history and the choices that we made. We come just like we are. Our best selves, our best health, and our best plans. And in this space, we are walking through the process of saying that I can't change what I did in the past. Personally, I'm telling you, for me, I made choices that are having effects on my body right now. I can't change that. But what I can do is from this moment forward, I can say, I'm not letting it go down like that anymore. I'm taking charge of my health. I'm not relying on anybody else to make those decisions for me. And it takes us putting a structure in place that keeps us accountable, that keeps us motivated, that keeps us educated, and keeps us empowered. And that's the space that you found yourself. So when you show up, I want you to get involved. It's called the Health Action Plan. It's called the accelerator when it comes. That means that we're moving. It requires your input in the community. The community grows and gets better because of you. When you tell your story, when you tell the challenges you're having, in addition to the successes, because we don't just want to hear the successes. Those are great. But help me on Monday morning when I got checked Cadbury in the refrigerator. Tell me how you overcame that. Right, that's what I really need to know. I don't need to know, okay, with the success that you had when you didn't eat. I was like, okay, well, right now I'm going to be eating this Cadbury and I'm going to eat 5 of them, not just one. I'm eating 5. I just went to the grocery store and I bought 10. How do I deal with the thing that's causing me to buffer? Help me with that. Right? Because we want to tell the good part. We want to tell the success, and that's great because it motivates us. But also give me the tools to help me when I'm in the space where I am not really sure if I'm going to be able to get out this. And then share this with somebody, because limitless living is not just about me. It's about improving my community. Send somebody to the channel. Come with them. Bring them on the show. If you're out there, you want to know how to start, come to the show. Be here. Be in the community. And we will continue working and continue walking through the process together. So I love being here. Love being with you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. Wherever platform you're joining us from, LinkedIn, Twitch, LinkedIn, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. Right now, Instagram is having an issue, so as soon as they get that fixed, then we'll be back on there. And whatever platform else, what other platforms we may see in the future. If you're joining us because you saw our content at your church or your community center or your doctor's office, thank you for joining us and being here in the space with us. Welcome to you. And let's go ahead and let's do this all together. We'll have our fasting check-in tomorrow as we walk through the process of fasting, how to prepare for the fast, how to get through the fast and what goes on in the body, and then of course how to break the fast. And come on back, you get to see what I eat as my very first meal after 72 hours, right? You want to see that. On Saturday at 9 p.m. we have a video from the vault, and then on Sunday morning at 6 a.m. we have This Week in Review, and then on Monday we'll be right back here for Dwain Woode MD Live as we continue the path of reclaiming our health and making our metabolism right again. Go to the channel. Look through the playlist. Start here, walk through that, and if you're trying to figure out what are we doing this week, go ahead and look at the playlist that's called This Week's Videos. Thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out with us. We will see you in the community. We'll see you tomorrow for our check-in. Have a great night, everybody. For those who are in the community, we'll have our link up in just a minute, so that will come out. Look forward to seeing you there after the show.